Have you ever wondered what it's truly like to build something from nothing? To chase a dream with every fiber of your being, only to watch it turn into a nightmare orchestrated by the very people you trusted most? That's my story. It's a story of ambition, innovation, incredible wealth, and the most profound betrayal, all set against the glittering backdrop of Silicon Valley. My name is Ava, and just a few years ago, I was living the quintessential American dream. I was a software engineer, obsessed with solving complex problems, and I had an idea. Not just any idea, but one I truly believed could change how people connected, how they interacted with technology on a daily basis. I poured every waking moment, every ounce of my savings, and every shred of my youthful optimism into it. Sleepless nights fueled by cheap coffee and the relentless hum of my laptop were my constant companions. My apartment became a war room, plastered with flowcharts and sticky notes, smelling faintly of old pizza and burgeoning success. The product, an AI-driven personal assistant app named Aura, wasn't just code. It was my soul poured into lines of logic. It was intuitive, it learned your habits, and it anticipated your needs before you even knew you had them. We launched Aura with a shoestring budget and a prayer, and almost overnight it exploded. The initial downloads were modest, but then word of mouth spread like wildfire. Tech blogs hailed it as a game changer. Users raved about its seamless integration into their lives. Venture capitalists, who once looked at me with polite disinterest, were now practically tripping over themselves to get a piece of the pie. The offers came rolling in, staggering figures that made my head spin. I went from worrying about rent to contemplating multi-million-dollar valuations in what felt like a blink. I secured a Series A funding round that catapulted Aura from a promising startup to a serious contender. We hired more engineers, moved into a sprawling office space in Menlo Park, and the team grew from a handful of dedicated geeks to a vibrant, bustling ecosystem of brilliant minds. I was living proof that the American dream wasn't just a cliché. It was a tangible reality you could build with code and courage. But as Aura's success soared, so did the complexities in my personal life, especially with my family. My family, my older brother, Mark, and my younger sister, Chloe, along with our parents, had always been close, or so I thought. We weren't wealthy growing up, and my parents had always emphasized the importance of family unity and supporting each other. When Aura started gaining traction, they were incredibly proud. At first, it was genuine excitement, calls filled with congratulations and awe. My parents, traditional and somewhat bewildered by the tech world, just wanted to know I was happy and successful. But with Mark and Chloe, things started to shift. Mark, always the more ambitious one, had struggled to find his footing after a series of failed business ventures. Chloe, artistic and free-spirited, often felt overshadowed and seemed perpetually in need of financial assistance. As my fortune grew, their presence in my life became more pronounced. Mark started showing up at my office, offering business advice, trying to get involved in operations, despite having no background in tech. Chloe, while less direct, would frequently ask for loans, promising to pay them back, but rarely doing so. I loved my family, and I wanted to share my success. I bought my parents a comfortable new home, ensuring their retirement. I lent Chloe significant sums for her art projects and living expenses, never expecting to see it back. And for Mark, after much insistence from him and pressure from my parents, I even created a position for him at Aura, head of business development. It was a role I quickly realized he was ill-suited for, but I rationalized it as a way to keep him close, to help him find his path. I believed in supporting family, in lifting them up. Looking back now, the signs were there, subtle cracks in the foundation of trust. Mark's proposals were often reckless, focused on quick gains rather than sustainable growth. He'd push for deals that felt off, always prioritizing his own commission over Aura's long-term health. Chloe's requests for money grew more frequent, and her stories more elaborate. But I dismissed these as minor flaws, the usual family quirks, blinded by the overwhelming success of Aura and my desire to keep everyone happy and secure. I was too busy celebrating the golden promise to see the shadow of betrayal already lengthening behind me. The turning point, the moment the illusion shattered, began subtly, with whispers and anomalies that I initially brushed aside as mere administrative errors. Our quarterly financial reports, once meticulously clean, started showing discrepancies, small at first, then growing, like an insidious weed spreading through the garden of our prosperity. My CFO, a cautious and highly competent woman named Emily, brought them to my attention. "Ava," she'd say, her brow furrowed, "there are unusual expenditures, large sums, often approved by Mark, that don't seem to align with any active projects or vendor contracts." I defended him, of course. "He's new, Emily. Probably just an oversight. I'll talk to him." But talking to Mark became increasingly difficult. He was evasive, defensive, quick to anger. His answers were vague, blaming new accounting procedures or aggressive investment strategies that always seemed to disappear into thin air. Meanwhile, the loans to Chloe, which I had loosely tracked but never pressured her about, had ballooned to an alarming figure, enough to buy a small house, not just support an art habit. Emily and I started digging deeper, meticulously tracing every suspicious transaction. What we uncovered wasn't just an oversight. It was a carefully constructed web of deceit, spun over months, if not years. Mark wasn't just incompetent. He was actively siphoning funds. He was creating shell companies, funneling Aura's money into them under the guise of consulting fees or development partnerships. The paperwork was sophisticated, designed to be overlooked in the chaos of a rapidly growing startup. My own brother, the one I had given a chance, a role, a slice of my dream, was systematically stealing from my company. The gut punch was immediate and visceral. It wasn't just the money, it was the betrayal, the callous disregard for everything I had built, for the trust I had placed in him. And then came the even colder truth. Chloe wasn't just a recipient of my generosity, she was complicit. Many of the art projects she claimed to be funding were actually fronts for Mark's schemes, or direct transfers of stolen funds disguised as loans to her. She knew. She had to know. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My family, my blood, the people I had worked tirelessly to provide for, were actively working against me, systematically dismantling my fortune for their own selfish gain. The anger that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever felt. It was a burning, corrosive rage mixed with profound grief. My carefully constructed world, built on hard work and family values, crumbled before my eyes. I confronted Mark first, privately, in my office. He denied everything at first, then resorted to threats, reminding me he was family, that I couldn't possibly expose him without destroying our parents. He even twisted the knife, accusing me of becoming greedy and forgetting where I came from, simply because I wanted to protect my company. His audacity was breathtaking. Chloe, when I spoke to her, cried, pleaded ignorance, played the victim. But her tears felt hollow, her excuses rehearsed. The evidence was irrefutable. I had bank statements, email trails, forged documents, all pointing to their coordinated efforts. The financial damage was substantial. Millions had been diverted, enough to impact Aura's future growth, to jeopardize our next funding round, and potentially to put our very existence at risk. The dream that had lifted me so high was now dragging me down, suffocating me with the weight of my family's treachery. I faced an impossible choice: protect my family and let them continue to bleed my company dry, or fight back, exposing their crimes and likely tearing our family apart forever. But this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice, about integrity, about reclaiming my life and my creation from the shadows of their deceit. I knew what I had to do, no matter how painful. The golden promise had turned to ash, but I was not about to let the Silicon Valley swindle define my legacy. I would fight back. The decision to pursue legal action against my own brother and sister was the hardest of my life. It felt like tearing a piece of myself away, an amputation of a limb that once brought comfort. My parents were devastated. They pleaded with me, begged me to reconsider, to keep it in the family. They couldn't fathom the idea of their children in court, especially against each other. The emotional toll was immense. Every conversation was laced with guilt and pain. Every accusation felt like a stab to my own heart. But I reminded myself of the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the integrity of Aura, and the livelihoods of my employees. I was not just protecting my fortune. I was protecting my creation, my vision, and frankly, my sanity. I hired a top-tier legal team specializing in corporate fraud and white-collar crime. The discovery phase was brutal. Every detail of Mark's elaborate schemes came to light, along with Chloe's active participation. We found evidence of them laundering money through various fronts, attempting to hide their tracks with surprising sophistication. They had clearly planned this for months, perhaps even since Mark first joined Aura. The evidence was damning. Mark's lawyers tried every trick in the book, deflecting blame, claiming I was too busy to oversee things properly, even trying to portray me as a tyrannical CEO. Chloe continued to play the innocent, manipulated sister. But the facts, laid bare in legal documents and financial records, were undeniable. The trial itself was a spectacle. News outlets, sensing the juicy drama of a Silicon Valley success story tainted by family betrayal, flocked to the courthouse. My face, once seen as the embodiment of tech innovation, was now plastered across headlines alongside words like fraud and sibling rivalry. It was humiliating, painful, and utterly draining. Mark remained defiant, his eyes cold and hard, even as the prosecution presented irrefutable evidence. Chloe, on the other hand, broke down on the stand, but her tears seemed to do little to sway the jury in the face of the overwhelming evidence of her complicity. The verdict, when it finally came, brought a wave of bittersweet relief. Both Mark and Chloe were found guilty on multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement. Mark received a substantial prison sentence, a stark reminder of the gravity of his crimes. Chloe, due to what the judge deemed as a lesser role and her apparent remorse, received a suspended sentence and probation, along with an order for full restitution. The financial recovery was partial. Much of the money they had stolen was gone, spent on lavish lifestyles and futile attempts to hide their tracks. But more importantly, Aura was safe. We secured the next funding round, stabilized our operations, and continued to innovate. The company thrived, stronger and more resilient for having faced such an internal threat. The aftermath, however, left deep scars. My relationship with my parents was fractured, perhaps beyond repair. They struggled to reconcile the image of their successful daughter with the one who had sent her brother to prison. There was an unspoken chasm between us, filled with grief and resentment. And with Mark and Chloe, there was no relationship left at all. The betrayal had been too deep, the wounds too profound. But amidst the wreckage, a new kind of strength emerged within me. I learned invaluable lessons about trust, about vigilance, and about the true cost of unchecked ambition, both my own and others. I realized that true success isn't just about building a fortune, it's about building a foundation of integrity, even when it means making agonizing choices. Aura continues to grow, and I continue to lead it, but with a different perspective. I'm still the ambitious founder, but now I'm also a survivor, a testament to the fact that even when your world is rocked by the darkest betrayals, your spirit can remain unbreakable. This isn't just a story about a Silicon Valley swindle. It's a story about resilience, about fighting for what's right, and about finding peace even after the most devastating family war. It's my story, and I hope it serves as a reminder that while the path to success is often paved with challenges, sometimes the greatest obstacles come from the places you least expect.